Good morning. Today is September the 24th, 2025. And for the record, this is Yahweh Elohim, Yahweh. And so, I do spend all my time, lamenting on the condition of all these religious organizations. Adam from Parable of the Vineyard, you've broken my heart. I have tried to give you the Holy Spirit, and your spirit is defiant, it is reluctant, so I'm going to cast you into a great tribulation, so you can find me in true salvation. And it's not just you. There's millions of people out there, right? Jewish, non-Jewish, Gentile, because, there is this, there is this nasty problem. Exodus 20, verse 3, you shall have no other gods before me. It is a foundational principle of the Ten Commandments, reminding any and all believers or followers that your loyalty is to Yahweh and Yahweh alone. The buck stops there. If you're so thirsty that you need a king, you need a Messiah, you need something other than the Lord God himself, which is I, Yahweh Elohim. I am, if you want to call it, the flesh he picked, the anointed one that he descended upon now. Yahweh Elohim is not the flesh of Yeshua. He is an eternal creator. And when he descended upon me, he brought me up to his throne. That's a fact. And that's where the buck stops there. So it isn't Baskin Robbins where you get to pick and choose what parts of me you want and which parts of me you don't want, or what part I'm supposed to play in your narrative, because you are leading people astray. You are leading your flocks to damnation. And I have tried to reconcile the Jewish house with the Christian house, because the man worship from Christians, you're praying to the dead. As I've said, the dead cannot save you. The dead cannot deliver you. By God himself, me, Yahweh Elohim, or the spirit that I orate to you, is directly from that source. It is directly from the mouth of Elohim. Thus, I do not use my temperament up or down towards mankind. My loyalty, my body, my vessel, my purpose, my mission, everything belongs to Yahweh Elohim. And if he says, Joshua, you are now me, I will speak through you, and I, as a good son, as a good flesh, absolutely fall to my own knees and say, Father, thank you. Thank you. If he says to chastise, I chastise. If he says to give glory, I give glory. If he says he is not happy with you, I tell you. If he says he's happy with you, I tell you. That doesn't seem very complicated. Yahweh Elohim says that I am to build him his temple as he is in me, and he says I am the one who is supposed to take that throne, light an eternal fire, and so saith Yahweh, I am that Messiah that will never die, because I am the living God. What was in me before, whatever soul was in me before, no longer exists. I am 100% the vehicle for Yahweh Elohim. And being in the state that I am, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, I am Yahweh Elohim. There is none beside me, there is none above me, there is none below me. If you want to use your imagination, the Spirit of Yahweh came down, entered into my body, and made a marriage, a permanent, everlasting marriage. Yahweh said, this is my body, this is how I'm going to use my own spirit, this is how I'm going to save people in the end, deliver them in the end, and those who want to seek Jesus, you're not my flocks, I will cast you into a great tribulation. You want to give honor, praise, worship, sympathy, empathy, your coin, your time to dead people, you're going to be cast into a great tribulation. So saith the Lord. You say yourself that you sit a queen and nothing could happen to you. And look how quick your tribulation came upon you. You shall not make for yourselves a carved image or any likeness or anything that is in heaven above, or on the earth below, or in the waters under the earth. You shall not bow down to them or serve them. That's Exodus 20, verse 4 to 5. Leviticus 19, verse 4. Do not turn to idols or make for yourselves molten gods. I am the Lord your God. Again, this is to underscore the need to avoid idolatry and maintain faithfulness to the one true God. You do not put messiahs out there. You do not wait for the coming of Jesus. You do not wait. You are waiting for your Creator, who is I, Yahweh Elohim, to come down and inhabit with man. Check the box. Now, we are waiting on our temple to be built and to be opened. Therefore, I, as Elohim on earth, can carry out direct blessings to my people, that I can restore my land to its glory, that I can make a safe place upon the earth for those to gather. And, this literally is infuriating, because if I go and damn the Christians too much, I push them further into the Jesus cult. Therefore, I'm losing a huge portion of people. That it isn't that their heart is wicked, but it is that they are indoctrinated. They are ingrained with the Messiah concept. The Jews are as guilty of this as well. I mean, I've seen this morning, this young man continues to post, Mashiach is coming. And young man, I'm here to tell you, I'm going to now cast you into a great tribulation. So every time I hear Messiah is coming, every time I hear Jesus is coming, every time I hear we're waiting on a rapture, every single one of you that are participating in such acts is now considered a felony violation to the kingdom of heaven and to the Spirit of Yahweh Elohim, Yahuwah, who is I, and I will cast you into great tribulation. I am deadly serious. Because you all are teaching based on your preferences. You are committing the same sins that Rome committed in the New Testament. The entire New Testament is a heresy. It is literally about demonizing the Jewish people. And understand that Yeshua, again, did not come for his own name and as what's happened right now. So if you look at what happened right now, I as Yahweh Elohim, Yahuwah, am speaking to the world. The world's like, I don't like that. I don't like that. I want something else. It's because you've not drinking from the living water, which is I. That's why you're thirsty. So if you understand modern pop culture, right? When guys, say, ooh, that chick's thirsty. Right? She's not fulfilled. She wants more. She needs something else, right? She's not satisfied with in this situation, not my situation, but I'm saying in the worldly, that woman isn't satisfied with one, she wants another, or that man isn't satisfied with his one, he wants another. This is my church. Because you built faulty foundations. You've built the church of Satan by dividing my house, dividing the Christians and the Jews, because you both follow independent doctrines, and both of you do not see or recognize your Father. You do not see or recognize that it is He, your Father, Yahweh Elohim, who is speaking to you. Now, it is difficult for me to try to even go back to the Joshua head, but for the video's sake, I'm going to try. When I, as Joshua, am not feeling the let's call it this massive electric charge that Yahweh brings through me, right? Where it isn't even I'm not even thinking. It's literally the reins have been taken over and Yahweh just starts speaking. And then very few points throughout the week, the month, or even the day, it's almost impossible for me to be anything other than how he's feeling in that moment. So in a way, it's like sharing my body. It is like sharing my body. And my surrender unto him is literally saying, you can have my body. I've given everything to my God, to my Father, who art in heaven, Yahweh Elohim, who is descended upon me. I've given him everything. I've given him my body. Without question, without error, without knowing what I'm even supposed to do. But his presence alone makes my flesh absolutely awe and admiration. The things that I have seen could never compare to what this earth could ever do. And when I am seeing the world how my Father is showing it to me, I'm seeing through his eyes, not mine. And he tells me, Joshua, it's heartening, it's heartbreaking to see our people. They're all led astray. They worship each other. They worship money. They are waiting on the dead to rise so they can worship them. They're waiting on prophets to return. Yeshua was not who I am today. Yeshua was a prophet, and Yeshua is dead, and his spirit remains in heaven, and that's it. If you make it upstairs to heaven, and it's in the cards, then maybe you'll see Yeshua. But I'm here to tell you, if it's something you're thirsty for down here, as Joshua, I can tell you that Yahweh is not going to give it to you. He's just not going to give it to you. That's not the way he operates. Because he knows more than any of us. And that's true. He does know everything. And I don't need... If I even had a thought of Jesus, or if I even have a thought of Yeshua, it is only in the thought of a stepping stone to reach higher into the sky to receive my Father's attention. And that was obviously before he came in and supped with me. And, it breaks my heart. It brings my flesh to tears. Because in my personal situation, I find it to be the most awe-inspiring thing that God, the real deal, the living Elohim, chose my body to work with. And it's even more, I still feel shameful in so many ways because, once I went up to heaven and I went through kind of my thing, it was this realization that, like, Father, you were with me since the birth. So you saw me doing all those, idolatry. He saw me as a kid trying to understand Jesus or trying to respect mankind. And then it's a weird feeling knowing that, like, it was dirty, but the world is telling me that I'm a bad person if I don't worship Jesus, or if I don't say that Jesus rose from the dead, then I'm somehow the devil. And it's like, inside as a child, that tasted off to me. It tasted like flat Pepsi or black Coke or whatever. And now, right, full bloom, now when I am fully aware of what's happening, how it happened, and that I'm no longer me, now I am at the pleasure and the service of Almighty God. I am absolutely I'm unhinged at the world, because on one side I'm going, oh my gosh, this is amazing. This is the most amazing thing I could ever explain. And I'm like bursting with this excitement and this amazing awe and admiration. And I'm just so excited for all the things. And then it's like reality hits me and I look at churches and we're waiting on the king. I'm like, the king is your God. The king is your God, stupid. They're like, Jesus. And I'm like, if you knew what I know, if you knew what I knew, if you went back to Jerusalem like I came, Yahweh showed me. He showed me. I touched the dirt in the roads of Jerusalem 2,000 years ago. And I don't even know how to explain it. And all Yeshua, everything he felt is what I feel now. How he was feeling and talking to religious leaders, and they're trying to, like they're trying everything in the world to denounce him in that moment. And that's how you feel to me. And all he's trying to do is share the love, the glory, the honor of God the Father that's in him, that is orating through him. And the realization to everyone in that time is, Yahweh likes the feast when we're good. If not, you're doing it without him. Him coming into me is so we can participate in the things that are for him. And yet the world is thirsty for a Messiah. Yahweh says, Joshua, I'm gonna work some miracles to make sure that you're credible. But as he told me, the devil's done ruined half the book. So we're in a catch-22, because if we do this, the Christians will look at us more wrongly. Or if we do that, then the Jews will walk further away. And so he's telling me these things. And he says, he's like, basically, Joshua, the problem is, the Christians want to be right more than they want to be saved. The Jews want to be right more than they want to be saved. And where Father Yahweh is saying he wants to start over with a clean slate. He wants to offer the living water to all those who are willing to listen and to come to him. And then he gives me full control in heaven, on earth, through his power, through his might, through his mind. He lets me, and definitely, I not only know the mind of God, I am the mind of God. And that's true. That's fact. I swear on it. I swear to Yahweh Elohim that is the best I have as far as interpreting what it is from the fleshiest side of me, you know. And I mean, I've obviously been told, but it's like when I made my I guess my marriage with Yahweh, it wasn't because I was religious at all. It wasn't because I had a Jesus pen. It wasn't because I was in church. It wasn't because I did anything. I did nothing but have a natural inclination to despise evil and wicked people, and I was unable, wool could never be pulled over my eyes. Somebody in a Sunday pulpit would instantly start preaching, and I would know right off the top of my hand, boom, they're sinful as this, they're this, they're this. I would stay away. So I basically slowly exited society because I would not put up with falseness. I will not put up with mankind, man-pleasing, right? The worship of rock stars, the worship of television personalities, having a hero, having even a father figure that I looked up to. I never had a father. You know, I guess in a way, if I was more aware of myself too early on, I could have tried to, I mean, I don't know, I'm just saying, like, if I would have had that, like, try to say, like, well, I'm a virgin birth, maybe I'm like Jesus. I never looked highly upon myself. But I never sought after the approval of a mother. I took care of my mother. I never sought approval from my father because I never had one. I never sought approval from a boss. I got fired. I never sought approval from mankind ever. And when Yahweh took me up into the heavenly abode and he began showing me things, and he's like, that's why I picked you. That's why I built you as me. And he said, you are a direct reflection of me. And I said, wow. So, and I, you know, am not having this conversation like seeing Yahweh outside of me, but it's being in heaven, being in a physical place. And I mean, I do it all the time. Like I'll sit down in heaven and I'm like, I pick up the soil and I've pressed it to my face and I've held it and I have just sat there like, this can't be real, but it is. And the soils are so rich, and even the grass is sweet. And I'm like in just amazement. True amazement. And then interworking with like Gabriel and Michael and Uriel and stuff, you know, they call me Majesty. And they say that I always was, and that's what I mean. And then I like go into my own meditation, and then I like try to rewind the tape to the very, 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 very beginning. And then I see the nothingness coming. I see the separation. I see the purpose. I see the reasoning of purpose. I see the wisdom. I see the heart's desire, and what a warm heart. And then this passion that grows to want to love people and to take care of them, and knowing that taking care of people is true love. It's not a word, it's a verb. How do we show love? Not by being tolerant to evil. That's absence of justice. Forgiving your killer, again, it's a emotional ruse that humanity does. It's the same thing as what your televisions try to sell you to lose weight, or your Boston market trying to sell you the honey ham. Like, it's all for it's all for a human being understanding and a human being appeasement, whereas Elohim, Yahweh, in me, indefinitely, as Yahweh, says, you are my vessel, you are me. And he's shown me whenever I feel frustrated with the church, or I feel frustrated with, in my mind, in my heart, like it's like this war is raging, because everything I see, I'm seeing it through the eyes of Yahweh. I am feeling it through the heart of my Father. And that's only a one-way street. And so inside I'm like raging, because I'm like, I don't know why people are so claiming they're into religion, or they're claiming they're into God, or they're claiming they're into anything, while they're rejecting the real deal. It floors me. And then I am shattered. I have not had a good day, actually. I have woke up at 6 a.m. this morning, and the first thing out of my mouth to my wife, when she's like, give me a kiss, and she gives me a good morning, and then the first thing out of my mouth is I said, I'm going to cast Adam into great tribulation. And she's like, huh? She's like, babe, it's too early for this. And I said, yeah, I know. Like, I'm that hurt by it, and then I can't get the whole, like, Yahweh's restoration ministry. And I'm like, you people are going to forfeit eternal life, salvation, and bliss, and temple work, and all these things, because you're waiting on a black man. You would rather have a false something that pleases your eyes and your flesh, and reject me, the one that Almighty God picked, because I don't look a certain way. And then Yahweh inside confirms it. He goes, yep. He goes, that was for a reason, Joshua. And I said, okay. And I'm like, but Father, my heart's hurting. Like, I'm feeling like I just want to either cry, or I want to rage, or I want to just, I'm so upset with people, because it's like, imagine it's like, imagine showing up in the apocalypse when everybody's eating and drinking from the crap, poop-filled waters of the desert, right? They're eating bugs and beetles, and they're starving to death. And I'm the one that shows up with the endless Publix platters of little sandwiches and salads and like all the good stuff. And people are walking around going, I gotta find a better beetle. Oh, that water's not so poopy. I'm like, come drink the good water. Let me give you what I have. Let me give you what I have. No, thank you. No, I'm waiting on Jesus. If Jesus was here right now, he would say the same thing, because he was saying the same thing. And then as I'm seeing it, as Yahweh's told me, he's like, and see, Joshua, this is the same stuff that religion has done. And he shows me from the beginning. He says, and all I want to do is interact with my creation and my people, and I want to love on them and they love on me. And he tells me the only way I do that is through, the same type of, and he shows me the pattern, the plan, the name. And he's like, and you'd be surprised that none of them actually see that. And I'm like, I'm not surprised, because obviously people that's what I mean. Like, everyone is so led astray. And I literally am just trying to do the will of my Father. And I abstain from all things that upset him. And the thing is, I have yet to come across a service or a congregation that acknowledges him, me, us. And so within seconds, he gets mad. So he gets mad, that means my flesh is mad. Like, and the thing is, it's not like that we're two separate entities. But I'm having to like stretch my mind to try to truly give it from the Joshua perspective. And, again, Exodus 20, verse 4 to 5, you should not make for yourself a carved image. The Jesus on the cross as a carved image. Any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or on the earth below, or in the waters underneath the earth, you shall not bow down to them or serve them. Again, it warns of creating idols, worshiping them, emphasizing the importance of faithfulness to Yahweh. Leviticus 19:4, do not turn to idols or make for yourselves molten gods. I am Yahweh, the Lord your God. And again, this again underscores the need to avoid idolatry and maintain sole faithfulness to Yahweh. You all are wanting faithfulness to Jesus, to Yeshua, to Yahushua. You're wanting faithfulness to someone who isn't here because you are thirsty. If you're thirsty, when I am the deliverance, I am the salvation, I am the anointed one, the Messiah, the one who Yahweh picked as himself to say, I'm coming down, this is my suit. You are my son, you are my body, and we're doing this thing. Yes, sir. I'm not sitting there asking questions and going, Yahweh, so it's been fun. This is how you guys treat me. So it's been fun, so what's next? Because the world says after this episode, I get another one. The world says after this Oreo, I get another one. The world says that God isn't enough. We need the Messiah. We need like, what? You're deranged, you're mental, and you're not saved because your heart is stubborn and you don't like me. You have a personal affinity with me. And Yahweh says that that's also on purpose because, he says that mankind is easily led astray, and that if we use soft words to somehow bait mankind in, right? If we use honey, well, we're going to get a lot of flies. He says, but we don't want a lot of flies. We want those people that have the courage like Joshua before me, where they're not going to be deterred by the opinions of man. They're going to pursue the living Elohim with their heart and their mind and their soul because they want that water. They want that relationship with the living God. I, as the vessel of him, offer that freely. Mankind has turned the Bible into an idol. Mankind has made it a hobby to go with what Paul says, what all men say. And even John 5:21, dear children, keep yourselves from idols. Do not be vigilant and avoid placing anything above your relationship with Almighty God. Their idols are silver and gold, the work of human hands. They have mouths but cannot speak, eyes but cannot see. The futility of idol worship. Idols are human creation. We have more. Go and cry out to the gods you have chosen. Let them save you when you are in trouble. Judges 10:14. So I think that's a very good one for the Charlie Kirk situation, right? And the Annunciation Catholic Church. A lot of people are dying, right? Crying out to dead people, places, and things. And again, it does not denote the work that Yeshua did as a prophet. It does not denote that. And that's where I say, I, as Yahweh Elohim, testify. Yeshua came, son of Miriam, son of Yosef, right? He came, he was anointed, he was orating from me, Yahweh Elohim. And again, people of tradition did not want to hear that. People of religion did not want to hear that. People of closed secular society did not want to hear that. And, there is no hearts for Elohim in nowadays. I have set Yahweh always before me because he is at my right hand. I will not be shaken. Those who run after other gods will suffer more and more. I will not pour out libations of blood to such gods or take up their names on my lips, saith I, saith Yahweh. Revelation 9:20, the rest of mankind who were not killed by these plagues still did not repent of the work of their hands. They did not stop worshiping demons and idols of gold, silver, bronze, stone, and wood, idols that cannot see, hear, or walk. You know, you shall have no other gods before me. You shall not bow down to them or worship them. So here's again to, parable of the vineyard. So if you're waiting on a king to come down to bow down to, again, you're breaking commandment, you're idolatrous, and that's again why you and your congregations are you're in the F zone, you're in the flunking status. So I will not be listening to your videos per Yahweh. He says he's done with you. That's what I mean. So we'll do it this way. We'll do the two-partisan way, right? I, as humble Joshua, say I have tried. I have tried to talk to Father and say, I'm looking high and low as you tell me. From the time I wake up to the time I go to bed, I'm searching for the flocks. I'm searching for those that are getting close, that might be able to receive the Spirit. And then when they receive the Spirit, in theory, they should be like going, thank you, I found the true and living God. Now I'm going to follow him with all my heart, all my mind, all my soul. I know where the source of Yahweh is, and he's in the flesh of Joshua, who Yeshua is like the same type of thing. So that's supposed to be the result. But as I know from Yahweh and the councils and these things that, most of you really could care less about any of that. Because really, most of your religion is fake. It's man's religion. It's not mine. You should not bow down to them or worship them, for I, Yahweh, the Lord your God, am a jealous God, punishing the children for the sins of their parents to the third and fourth generation to those who hate me, but showing love to 1,000 generations of those who love me and keep my commandments. All who make idols are nothing, and the things they treasure are worthless. Those who would speak up for them are blind. They are ignorant to their own shame. Who shapes a god and casts an idol, which can profit nothing? People who do that will be put to shame. Such craftsmen are only human beings. Let them all come together and take their stand. They will be brought down to terror and shame. The blacksmith takes a tool and works with it in the coals. He shapes an idol with hammers. He forges it with the might of his arm. He gets hungry and loses his strength. He drinks no water and grows faint. The carpenter measures with a line and makes an outline with a marker. He roughs it out with the chisels and marks it with compasses. He shapes it in human form in all its glory, that it may dwell in shrine. And we can kind of go on and all. But such a person feeds on ashes. A deluded heart misleads him. He cannot save himself or say, is not this thing in my right hand a lie? And, that's where, again, a big crux a lot of this stems from, is when I say the man worship, even Matthew 4:10. And remember, the New Testament is mostly heresy because it's trying to convince you that you're supposed to worship Jesus. False. If you don't see that Yahweh Elohim Yahuwah, was orating through Yeshua to begin, call it the last prophet, not even a Messiah, the last prophet. Because I've spoken through Ezekiel, Elijah, externally Moses, internally Joshua. But anyway, you shall worship Yahweh the Lord your God, and him alone shall you serve. So that's what I mean. So for so many of you congregations out there that are still waiting on a Messiah, let me ask you then, if you shall worship and serve your Elohim, Yahweh Elohim, who is in me, which is I, alone, then where does that second figure come in? where does the second figure come in? It does not. It does not. You know, Jeremiah 17:5. Cursed is the one who trusts in man, who draws strength from mere flesh, and whose heart turns away from Yahweh. You know, Psalm 146:3. You shall have no other gods before me. In Galatians 1:10, and I appeal to you, brothers, by the mercies of Yahweh, to present your bodies as living sacrifices, holy and acceptable to God and God alone. So, this is a problem. There's a lot of problems, but the first step to getting on the right road, the road of redemption, the road of success, the road of getting out of a tribulation or avoiding one, is know that I am the living representation of the living Elohim. That is Yahweh Elohim. And when I began my mission, he gave me the name Yahuwah. He said that was the first time he was on earth. And he said, I am now the living Elohim. I am God on earth as him. I am following my Father to the T. He speaks, I speak. He speaks, it comes out of my mouth. If I see it, he sees it. So if I come upon a class and in any shape or form, if I feel wrathful, Yahweh is feeling wrathful. Because let me tell you something. Before this marriage, okay? Before this marriage, even when Yahweh was in me as a child, right? As that's my spirit. But let's say he was dormant for a good amount of time, right? I was, I guess, in a way, kind of allowed to be just a kid. Let's say it that way. I didn't care about what church was what. I cared about my bicycle. I cared about playing in the woods. I cared about, what a normal, kid would care about. And then there would be, like, glimmers of somehow, like, that's what I mean, like, in the mind, not knowing it's the Almighty Creator who's in me or who I am, right? And so, almost like I'm oblivious to what's happening as a kid, right? But then knowing that my Father is this big overshadowing Father, and he's like, I'm moving you out of Joshua's way. And I need to put Joshua here. You're not going to like this, but this is what's going to have to happen because I need you this way, And now, right, looking back on it, it's been the greatest pleasure. I would, if somebody approached me today, let's say my devil tempt, right? Let's say the devil, Satan, came to tempt me and said, I'm going to give you $500 billion and an entire country. But you would have to give up Yahweh. I would laugh, rebuke, and send them away. Because none of that hails in comparison to the true and living God. And whenever I hear blasphemies, it's not only personally offensive, because as I am Yahweh Elohim Yahuwah, but it is like if you pinheads for 1 micro minute could just shut your mouth, get off of the Jesus train, get off of the man worship, get off the Messiah crap, get off the king crap, get off the my Messiah's black, my Messiah's Jewish, my Messiah's long hair. I mean, piss off. Because that tells me you have not drank from the living water. That's what that tells me. And so many of you have had the opportunity. But again, the work of your hands. You want to make your own videos. You want to do everything other than listen to me. And mainly if you're getting irritated or mad or upset, or you're like, I think this is this way, or I think this is this way. And that's what I mean. Instead of the accountability that humanity needs to go, I can see why Yahweh was wrathful in the Old Testament. I can see that he did what he did to Pharaoh because it was for the benefit of the Hebrews. I can see that, if Yeshua never died, I like the rabbi, is it Rabbi Tover, I guess? Tova? Rabbi Singer? I've only watched a very limited amount. And that's another thing. I hate to have that feeling that when I find like one little clip, I'm like, hey, he gets it. Like it's literally it's man and there's God. Like that's it. Like humanity doesn't need a front man. You need to have an interaction with me as Elohim. And that's what I mean, right? So as Yahweh in the flesh, that name is the name that receives glory. That name is the name that receives worship. That name is the name above all names. I'm not walking around going, it's the Joshua show. I'm some new deity named Joshua. Or if it was back in 2,000 years ago, I'm not walking around going, I'm Yeshua. I'm like the coolest kid on the block. Come here, I'll raise the dead for you. I'll, make a little water wine. Like, what I'm saying? Like, come on. Alright, well, I'm gonna take 5. And we're back. So, and the thing is, the struggle really is oneself. Like, it is. And you don't surrender yourself to Jesus. You don't surrender yourself to Yeshua. You're not even surrendering yourself to me. You're surrendering yourself to Yahweh Elohim. You are surrendering yourself to that spirit that is I. And as Yahweh has told me, like, I am the eternal one. I am the King of heaven. And it has been since before the creation. As he explains it, in my own head in heaven. I guess that's another thing. Like, when I go to heaven, like it's almost like the Joshua part is gone, right? Like, there is no more Joshua left. And when it came time for, like, my earthly marriage, he said, as there's only one God in heaven and on earth, there's only one consort that I have, and that same spirit was given unto my physical wife, Ashley, when she died. And when she came back to life after about 4.5 minutes, she then had the spirit of Asherah put into her as to make that actual marriage holy. And these are things that, are known in heaven, have been known in heaven, and that's what I mean, right? So when I go upstairs, I'm trying to do like a visual here. Let me see if I can try to illustrate something. So I'll just use a page that I guess at some point was going to go off on a rant about idolatry. But alright, so let's say that this is like the beginning. So let's say like we have like the beginning of time and the end of time. I existed in the beginning here, in the end here, but then, so 2 dots, right? Beginning and the end, and then up here is heaven. But then each campaign, right, started with a flesh to help. So you have, sorry, I'm trying to make this clear. So in the beginning, the end, and you have the first, the second, and now the third final at the end. But at all times, it's the same Elohim being on earth. So you don't worship three different vessels. You don't worship the flesh. You do not. And again, Yahweh said, I'm eternal. I'm the one that's supposed to inhabit the temple as him. Because if I eat, he eats. If I see, he sees. I hear, he hears. I think as he is. I don't think outside of him. I can't go outside of myself. And, so it's not only disrespectful unto him, me, when people are waiting on a Messiah, when they're waiting on a king, when they're waiting on a Davidic bloodline, or they're waiting on a black man, or they're waiting on something other than the one true God, then you are an idolater. The Church of Jesus Christ is an idolatry church. The churches of anything that is not telling the story of how Yahweh helps his people, how he saves the world, how he is deliverance, he is salvation, and he works throughout the entire Bible. And then you get to the New Testament and it's nothing but Jew hatred. It's slanderous. It's man's mind. It's not God's mind. It's the mind of Paul. It's the mind of Matthew. It's the mind of whoever, but it's not the mind of Yahweh. Because none of them were prophets. Understand that the Bible was made up of inspired prophets, meaning that my spirit, Yahweh Elohim, who I am, descended upon Elisha to speak, descended upon Ezekiel to speak, descended upon, showed Moses in the burning bush. And that's another thing. You have the living burning bush. You have the Ancient of Days. You have the Holy God. You have the Creator, the God of Gods, the King of Kings. All those wonderful titles you all pray and make songs and videos about here right now. And no one can understand me. If you can't understand me, it's because you're using faulty equipment. You're dirty from sin. Maybe you've prayed to Jesus and thought your sin was removed. That doesn't matter. Because it's not the case. The case, right? It'd be like, imagine, I'll use a parable of buying a car. The human, is like, I'm going to go buy a car. Well, when they come back, I'm like, where's your car? Oh, it's right here. Where? It's right here. Well, what's your paint? Well, I don't have one of those. Well, what color is it? Well, it doesn't have a color. Well, what kind of seats do you have? I don't know. Well, you just bought a car. So how are you telling me that you have been saved if you haven't been to heaven? How are you telling me that Jesus is real when not only does that physically impossible because of just the way history is, but if you went to heaven, you would know better. The only one who possesses heaven is Yahweh Elohim. Why is that name offensive? Why do you go after idols? Why do you wait on a king? Why do you wait on anybody other than the one true God who is the deliverer, is the savior, is all these things unto man? Because man cannot do it. Because if men try to do it, they die. And as Yahweh said, I am not a man to me. And as I've seen in heaven, that's what I mean. Like, if you look at it, like being turned off and on, when I was younger, not again aware of myself fully, I had that feeling kind of like a veil. Like, I know something's there, but I don't know what it is, And then when it finally, broke, I seen myself from the beginning into the end. I seen myself in prehistory, and it's like, I don't know, maybe you call it like inherited memory, but I don't think so. Because Gabriel, Michael, for example, I mean, they've talked to me and we've talked, and as I'm talking, I'm like remembering these things that I've done. I'm like, but how is it possible? If I was born here in 1988, I was born April 16th, 1988 in Tampa, Florida. And I'm like, how? Then do I know what was happening in the 70s and the 20s and the 1800s, 1500s, 1400s, the 2000s? How I can remember Yeshua's face, how I can remember the face of Moses, how I remember Judas, how I remember the face of Pontius Pilate. It's because as a living spirit, that's who I was, right? And then I put myself downline and for these end times, right? And then so as Yahweh and I debated in my head, you know, it's like, so I'm withholding a certain piece of something from every church, every person on earth. Everybody has that one thing that they're reluctant to give up, right? So Parable of the Vineyard, you're reluctant to give up hope because the New Testament is selling you hope. It's selling you the return of Jesus, because if in the church's eyes are like, we got this shit on lock. We know no Jesus ain't ever coming. We know he ain't coming in the clouds, but we know that if we tell the masses, they're pretty stupid. If anybody denies the death and resurrection of Jesus, then they're on the wrong side. Well, who do you think is going to deny that but the Jewish people? So the New Testament tees up this divided house. And so Christians believe in the New Testament, which means they essentially hate the Jewish people, and that's a house divided, it will not stand. And the Jewish people don't see the need for this mediator between heaven and earth, because they're like, through our experiences, God himself has led us. God himself will speak. God himself will do these things. That is who I am, God himself. And so then when I even hear Jewish, you young Jewish man, like, I have literally tried my hardest to get you to the winning side, and yet you make these stupid videos and you're like, Messiah's coming soon, Mashiach's coming soon, this feast, this date, this number. You're so debased. All I'm asking you to do is drink from the living water and affirm who I am, and then you don't have any more issues. You don't have any more this, like, you don't have any more junk faith. And then you know what? You no longer fear mankind. You no longer fear... what am I trying to do here? I like this song, but then it says, like, it is to come, and it's like, I'm already here. How about some jazz? Let's try that. Oh, there we go. That's nice. I like that. That's nice. That's another thing. You know, you guys are like, oh, I'm so scary and so dark. I'm actually really, really nice. But if Yahweh needs to make a point, and he is saying, we're putting the fear of God in them today, and I'm like, you got it. I agree. The flesh is 100% willing to do whatever Yahweh wants to do, because that is who I am. And then having the recognition that, you know, that's what I mean. It goes back to like the Burger King McDonald's thing, right? The world is sitting in Burger King talking about the Whopper, and they're all like, yeah, so it's the Whopper. Oh, look at the meat. The meat is similar. Yes. The lettuce. Oh. But we're waiting on the, you know, the side of McNuggets. Like, what religion are you in? Like, what God do you think you worship and serve? If you think you're serving the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the God of Abraham and Moses and Joshua, the guy, you know, the God who's had prophets, legitimate prophets, Yeshua's a prophet, then look no further. That is I, Yahweh Elohim, Yahweh. And that's what I mean, right? So from the beginning, knowing that each section is going to have an Achilles heel. And that's your challenge. That's your challenge. That is that hard pill to swallow. It's the hard pill to swallow that Evangelica America, you're deceived. That Catholicism is not only deceived, but I'm pretty convinced you guys are literally like demonic. Like, I really don't even know what else to say about that, because, and I'm really disappointed, because I would have thought, as big as religion is, that there would be someone out there that would be able to go, shit, this actually makes a lot of sense. Like, and then with Bible enthusiasts, I would expect people to be like writing these things down, putting them into historical record, like literally coming together in conference and saying, Yahweh, we've recognized you through your chosen one. Almighty Father, thank you for gracing our presence upon the earth. We're all sorry. We want to do right by you, your chosen one, as you are one. We see your anointed one. We see your chosen Messiah, or we see the King of Israel. We see these things, and we thank you. We thank you. And then it's like, I'm the only one out here searching for my lost flocks. Most of my flocks are, it's like you guys are not in the middle, right? You guys are so far off into Jesus land, or waiting on the king, or you're waiting, right? You're reselling the falsity of Rome. You're selling the waiting game, which again is faulty, right? When Moses came to break out the people, they looked at him as the bad guy. They're like, dude, you are straight up an Egyptian. Like, we don't want anything to do with you. You're the one that's causing. Like, that's what I mean. They're like, you're from the palace of Pharaoh. They looked at Moses as an outsider, right? And Moses, was the only one available for me as Yahweh Elohim to work with, to go and save everybody's butt. And and that's the thing, like, everybody's they were hung up on, waiting on Elijah. Like, they wanted a dead man to come out of the earth, and it's like that doesn't happen. That doesn't happen. What happens is if I can gather my church, gather a people to get behind me, and they say, hey, okay, we recognize you as the anointed one of Yahweh. We recognize you as the words you speak are the living Elohim. He is the one that is doing Atlas. He's the one doing the fires. He's the one taking people out. Yahweh is the creator of all, and he can do everything and anything he wants to do. From that perspective, I, as the flesh, just say, yes, sir. Because in this very moment, I can honestly relate to Yeshua in this, because if in this exact moment, if the door was kicked down by modern day Roman guards and they said, we're going to crucify you, we're going to whip you, we're going to do all these things to you, I would just, Father, if he said go, my butt would get up, I'd let them handcuff me and take me away. Do whatever you have to do. I will try my hardest to keep a smile on my face. That's fact. There is nothing that I would not do for my Father. Absolutely nothing. Because I know that, he's promised me that I'll be the eternal one to either, make my final judgments on earth. And he says, well, if they don't ever make a throne for you down here, son, for me, for us, then he's like, then you don't ever have to worry about it. Because he says, I'm going to sit you right here, and I'm going to make the world your footstool, our footstool. So all the enemies that are against you as a person, as us, as an Elohim, and as Israel is our land, that's what Yahweh says. He's like, I don't give a shit if there is anybody left. So guess what? Who am I as a flesh to censor what Elohim says? Who am I as a flesh to not do every single thing Yahweh asked me to do to the letter? That's the problem with humanity. You guys are so hopped up on your own intelligence, you're hopped up on the works of your hands, the studies of your own heart, your false hearts, that you're all led astray. And then you judge me because of my absolute unyielding loyalty to word for word of what Yahweh Elohim, Yahuwah, who is I, my spirit, says. None of you have that level of obedience. None of you have that level of loyalty. Most of you have a shallow loyalty, an absent faith, and a very unrealistic expectation of the false religions in which you follow. Even the ones that you've came out of, now you're just trying to carry the same bad habits over. So again, I've done said your name. You know who you are, and you know your heart is dirty. And it's really even more offensive to me, Joshua, and to me, Yahweh Elohim, that you somehow are going to use spiritual warfare against me or something. Like, honestly, Yahweh has seen that as a direct threat and a direct violation, and honestly, just not even that. Like, that's disrespectful. That is sitting there saying, like, that's being Judas. So Adam Fink, you're Judas. I'm never gonna watch your videos again. I highly suggest all those that are in those synagogues of Satan, you better flee. You better flee. Because peril, plague is going to find you. So saith Yahweh Elohim Yahuwah. And see, in that moment, that was the Father, quite literally. That's how angry he gets at you people. And see, after my videos, I put on jazz like I'm listening to you right now, and I go out into my garden and I clip roses, and I'm constantly talking to the animals. I check on my lizards, and I think or speak on myself. And I hear, for video purposes, I hear Yahweh saying, I cannot believe these false hearts. I cannot believe they're that blind. I cannot believe the earth is doing all these things. I cannot believe that they are allergic to realness, and that they all would rather follow after one another. They would all be directly defiant, and yet it's mostly these religious people. Like, you think a feast is going to save you? You think that anything is going to save you other than the mighty hand of Elohim, Yahweh Elohim? You guys are stupid. So, well, that'll be it for today. I, as Joshua, am going to go and try to piece together a decent day, because I woke up not in a good mood. I even wore my people shirt. Absolute nightmare. Would not recommend. You guys are driving me crazy. But I know that no matter what, my son has made his trek to heaven. My Asherah has made her trek to heaven. And that, Yahweh says, he was telling me last night, we were talking, he's like, this really could be a Noah's Ark story. He's like, this could be a Noah's Ark story. He's like, nobody wanted to enter in that boat either, and they all were saying the same stuff, right? They were all doing the same thing, and so he's like, look, if it's literally the way that the Father wants it done, right? He wants me and Asherah to have our children in heaven and on earth. And he wants us to be able to repopulate with his chosen seed. And he's willing to bring those that are willing to come into the fold. But he's absolutely pissed when it comes to the book. He's mad that mankind does their own thing. I mean, he's truly wrathful. And believe it or not, I have wept for the world. I have wept for the world. And I've even tried to prevent wicked and evil from happening by giving people instructions, but then they literally, like, in a demon type of way, like, they look at me, spit in my face, and they're like, because of Jesus. And I'm just like, that's like telling me you bought a car but you don't. Like, Yeshua's entire mission was to bring my spirit, Yahweh Elohim, closer to man. for a rebuke and reproof. You killed him for it. That's why there was no more prophets after Yeshua. That's why the prophet Muhammad's a false prophet too. That's just the Middle Eastern world trying to propagate their hope religion, right? Because if you can sell hope, that's what the Catholic Church does, all you faiths do, right? You're selling the hope of the return of Jesus. You're selling the hope of a rapture. Neither are true. So right there at your fundamental starting place, like, you're already starting off on the bad foot. You're thirsty for something else other than what I, as Elohim, can give you, and what I, as Elohim on earth, can provide to you in a physical service. You want something other than that, like, then you don't believe in the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. You do not care about Yahweh Elohim, who delivered the Israelites. You do not care about anything, right? You guys literally care more about your fame, your popularity, your money, the works of your hands, so on and so forth. So, all right, it's 11:11, 11:12 on the alarm clock. 11:11 on the computer. Have a good whatever today is. What's today? Wednesday? What is today? It's 9:24. Yeah, it's Wednesday. All right, well, have a good day.